Hi everyone, let's take a look at problem 15-4, which deals with corporate valuation. Okay, we have the Dozier Corporation, and it's a fast-growing supplier of office products. Analysts project the following free cash flows during the next 3 years, after which free cash flow is expected to grow at a constant 7% rate. The company's cost of capital, meaning its weighted average cost of capital, is 13%. Okay, we have a timeline in front of us with free cash flows for the next 3 years. Let's take a look at problem A now, or part A. Part A asks, what's the terminal or horizon value? And they give us a hint. They say to find the value of all the free cash flows beyond 3, and then discount it back to year 3. Okay, now I've put the formula that we need to determine the value of the operation when there is a period of constant growth, and that's what we have under Part A. Okay, to work Part A, we need to know some variables. Let me bring these to light. Okay, we need to know what the free cash flow is, and we're interested in the free cash flow for a period of n+1. And I think what I want to do is format this. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Okay. Okay, well, here's how we calculate it. Let me hit the F2 key, and I'll show you how I come up with 42.80. We know in the third period, right to the left of my mouse, that we had free cash flow expected of $40 million. Okay, now I hit the F2 key, and the F2 key says we need to take 1 plus 40 times 1 plus whatever the growth rate is. Well, in the problem, the growth rate is given. It's 7%, and they also give us a weighted average cost of capital. So free cash flow is simply taking 40 times 1 plus 7%, or 40 times 1.07. And we come up with free cash flow of the next year beyond what we have projected. That gives us the free cash flow for the terminal or horizon value. Okay, now to determine the terminal value, we need to enter the formula that's provided right here. Free cash flow of n+1 divided by the weighted average cost of capital minus growth. So now, there's the answer, but let me show you how we work it. I'll hit the F2 key. So I take what's in cell E23, which is the free cash flow on top, and then divide it by the 13% less the 7%. And that's the answer to Part A. Okay, now let's take a look at Part B, which asks, what is the current value of operations for Dozier? Okay, let me slide a little bit so we've got a little room to work. And I think what I want to do is highlight all of these cells, and we put together a timeline. Okay, once we put together a timeline, let me slide a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing here. Once we put together a timeline, we can calculate the current value of operations for Dozier. Okay, well, what have I done here? I've said what are the operations, and I've dropped in the items from above. Now let me show you that they do match. Okay, that 20 is the 20 loss of or negative free cash flow we expect for year 1. Okay, the 30 comes from to the left of my mouse. The 30 million of free cash flow we expect by the end of year 2. And number 3 is the 40 million. Let me hit the F2 key so you can see this. Okay, it's the 40 million that's given in the table above plus the terminal value. Keep in mind the terminal value represents the value of all cash flows beyond the last period in which we're given a number. So in this case, at the end of year 3, we're given $40 million. The value of all cash flows expected beyond that, discounted to that last period, is $713, or $713 million, 0.3. And if we add that into the 40 million, we get a free cash flow value at the end of period end equal to 753.33. Okay, then now you could discount those separately to come up with the current value of operations. But the way I approach that is I use the net present value function. Okay, and there it's given. If you even wanted help, you could hit the F2 bar, and it would show you. Let me see if we can get this here. It would show you the rate is given in cell E24, which is that cell right there. Okay, the value comes from the cash flows right here. Okay, and once you've given that, it will calculate the net present value. So the value of the firm, or the value of the operation, let me do it this way. Value of operations is equal to net present value. And now let me put that the way our text does to keep it consistent. Okay, so the value of operations for Part B is $527.9 million, or $0.89 million. Okay, now let's tackle Part C of this problem, and it says, suppose Dozier has 10 million in marketable securities, 100 million in debt, and 10 million shares of stock. What would be the price per share? Okay, let me slide up a little bit. And I think if I show the work here, what we need to do is list these items. Okay, the value of the operations then, we've calculated above, it's 527.89. Okay, let's drop in the other two. Investments were 10 million, the debt is 100. And the value of CE, let me format this. So the value to common equity is simply the sum of above. Okay? Let me slide on up so you can see that. So to determine the price per share, we need to determine the value of common equity, which is the value of operations. I want to make sure we format this just like the book does. Keep it consistent. Plus investments, less debt. Okay? And we need a couple other items here. We need to drop in the number of shares. Now all of these are in millions of dollars, so we need to enter the share in millions of dollars too, so it's simply 10. And then to determine the price per share, let me slide up one more so you get a little bit of room here. Slide down. There we go. I can hit the F2. So all I'm taking is the value to the common equity divided by the 10, which is the number of shares, and we determine that the price per share is 43.79. So let me bold that, and that takes care of solving problem 15.